and a former nurse who presents to the hospital for shortness of breath. She's hypoxic, and her CAT scan reveals multifocal pneumonia. She quickly decompensates, requiring intubation and upgrade to the medical ICU. I am part of the ICU team taking care of Mrs. Jones, and we quickly begin treatment for community-acquired pneumonia complicated by vent-dependent respiratory failure. Despite our best efforts, her condition worsens and she requires intensification of her vent settings due to ARDS. 3 weeks into her hospitalization, Mrs. Jones' prognosis is looking extremely grim. She's developed several complications, including AFib, renal failure, ileus, heparin-induced thrombocytopenia, and a generalized rash due to drug reaction. She's developed encephalopathy to an extent where she's completely unresponsive even when not on sedation. Each day she gets a chest x-ray and routine labs. The intensivist opens up her images and compares it to the prior day. The radiologist consistently reports no significant change. I feel we have failed as a team, as daily rounding on her seems to serve no real purpose. Now, Mrs. Jones has a pretty large family. She has one family member at her bedside at all times. And you know, we begin conversations about how she's lived a meaningful life, and perhaps now would be the time to make her more comfortable. With the help of our palliative care team, we sit down together to discuss goals of care, and her family seems to understand her suffering, but they are still hopeful for a complete recovery. They opt for a tracheostomy and PEG tube placement, and Mrs. Jones tolerates the procedure well. 10 weeks after remaining unresponsive in the ICU, Mrs. Jones slowly starts following commands, squeezing my fingers and wiggling her toes. Soon, she's verbalizing her needs like a champ. Her face is lit up with joy, her family is elated, lighting up the atmosphere of the whole ICU. Her room is probably the brightest corridor in a hallway in which despair is often the norm. She's eventually discharged to a long-term acute care facility where, after months of rehab, she gets her trach and PEG removed and is eventually discharged home. As an internal medicine resident, Mrs. Jones gave me the gifts of hope and perseverance. She taught me the importance of having loved ones around you in your times of need. These are lessons perhaps that she learned while caring for thousands of patients during her time as a nurse. And while not all stories end the same way in the ICU, Mrs. Jones taught me that no matter how much the odds are against you, no matter what the experts say, there's always a way to climb back up. In short, Mrs. Jones gave me a glimpse into the phenomenon called the human experience. Thank you.